Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's all about safety first. And I really do mean that when it comes to the vehicles that are on the road today, the ones that are transporting hazardous materials like fuels, the ones that are transporting your groceries, the ones that are transporting everything, millions and millions of vehicles, drivers. Who's keeping them safe? This gentleman here makes it his life work to make sure they're safe. He works with those companies that dispatch those vehicles. DOT Training Solutions is his company. We're going to look at the cargo tankers that you see on the road and what goes into the inspection process to make sure they're safe. Matt Freeman is back with us. Hey, Matt, what's going on?
Hey, Steve, how you doing today?
Very well, very well. And you brought back a guest. Jim Young is here. Do I have it right? He's your cargo tank specialist?
Yes, he's one of our cargo tank specialists and trainers and consultants. So,
yeah, welcome back, Jim.
Hey, Steve. Thank you.
So one of the things that we're going to dig into today is what goes into the inspection process for cargo tanks, what registered inspectors, and Jim, would you come under that category, a registered inspector?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're looking for, what you find in annual inspections, even before we get there, I just saw a post and I'm on all different feeds of videos like boat fails, you know, like stuff you'd sit at home and just watch and like, there's another one, look what they did. And I don't know how it came up, but it was a cargo tank that blasted open. And there was just I don't know if it was a seam or whatever, but alarming to see that with, the metal open. How often does that actually take place?
Matt, you may be able to answer that better, but I would say it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction for the amount of hazmat loads that are dispatched every day.
yeah.
Okay.
It makes the news.
When it happens.
That used to be one of the little clever things I used to say is, I fix the ones you see on TV.
Yeah.
Nobody shows a gasoline tanker going down the road doing nothing. They show them when they flip over and burn.
Sure. So that situation it sounds like an anomaly. However, there's other things that can go wrong with a cargo tank, be it a leak and other issues. So why don't we talk about the annual inspections every year? What are some of the things that you've discovered, Jim?
The first thing that we go look for is it's always leaks and cracks. Those are the first things, and we always look inside the cargo tank first. When I teach, I always say the demons hide inside, because you don't see it every day. The driver's not looking at it every day. If the tank comes in for a small repair, like a light or something of that nature, nobody's seeing it. But when it comes to the annual inspection, we're able to see inside the tank, and we're looking for cracks. We're looking for pits where a chemical reaction has occurred in the metal, so that the material becomes thinned out. And then we do the same thing externally, and we're looking for areas that are cracked. They were previously welded, the weld is cracked, or just a metallurgical failure that has caused a crack in another area. And those are the most common things. And then you look for stains and drips and other things around the tank to determine whether or not there's a leak, where product is allowed to escape the barrel. But those are the two most common.
When we say a crack in the tank, what are we talking about? Because instantly I picture a crack. That's going to go, excuse me, that's going to go through to the other side. Can you actually see either from the inside or the outside just the beginning of a crack?
Absolutely.
Wow. Yes, you can.
The most common, every gasoline, well, not every, 99.9% of the gasoline trailers that are out there hauling gas and diesel, just as a for instance, they're made of aluminum and they're multiple compartments. And to have multiple compartments, you have to have bulkheads that separate those compartments. And then they also have surge suppression baffles, so that when a driver hits the brake, all that material doesn't slosh forward and push him through an intersection. So those look like the heads, but they have drain holes in them to allow product to flow. But where those heads and baffles are welded into place, cracks can develop there, and you can see the crack on the inside, but it has not yet penetrated all the way to the outside.
Wow. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that, because now I have a picture, as
Okay,
the rest of us
good.
do, of what it looks like inside one of those. How do you see? Do you put a camera in there?
No, you put a body in there. Two
You know,
human
I knew
eyes.
you were, I got to tell you, I didn't want to
Yeah.
say that, but I was watching another video the other day, and
Yeah.
it was somebody that was crawling in. I'm like, they're really crawling inside there.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You bring a bunch of other OSHA safety requirements and practices into place that would be a whole other podcast. But the most common way people do try to use cameras, there's been talk about it on the legislative side, but the most common method is to put a man with two good eyes in that barrel with the
Wow.
light, and let him inspect the entire surface inside with his own two eyes.
So, want to go deeper in, no pun intended, but there was hazardous materials inside there. So, does he have a respirator? Like, what's going on with that?
In most shops, the vehicles are completely cleaned out before anybody steps foot in them.
Ah,
Yeah, rule of thumb is to have them cleaned and purged before you even enter a tank. And then they're also sniffed out with a detector that will sense any odors or anything that could be in the tank as far as fumes or anything.
wow.
So that there's a lot of precautions taken before they get into a tank.
Gotta ask, because my geeky mind wants to know, how do you purge and clean it to the point where there's no dangerous vapors? You know, let's face it, he's squeezing in that tank. Is it barely enough room for his body to get down in there? And now he's walking around with a light. How do you clean that inside there?
Well, real quick here, Jim, and I want to let you answer the questions. Depending on the tank that they're climbing in, you have a 16 and an 18-inch or 20-inch
20. Yeah.
Lid. So, to your point, those aren't super wide areas to get into. So sometimes it's not always easy on that side of it. But I'll let Jim talk about the other part.
It of course depends on what the previous haul was. If we stick with the gasoline and diesel example, there are two common methods. One is they go to a professional steam rack, and they'll put steam jets down in the tank, and they'll run steam through there for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and that removes all of the flammable vapor is what we're looking for.
Okay.
Liquid explosive level flammable vapor. The other method is to circulate air through it. And in that case, the cleaning rack will send the air to a flare, and it gets burned off through their EPA approved process. But for gasoline, those are the two methods. When you start getting into chemicals, crude oil, there are specific procedures and detergents and temperatures and all sorts of different practices that the wash racks have to go through, and they're the real experts on that. But in sticking with the gasoline diesel theme, it's either steam or air circulation.
You know what this reminds me of? Watching TV, and I'm sure you remember the show. Hi, I'm Mike Rowe, and this is my job.
Dirty jobs.
Dirty jobs.
Crawl inside there and navigate through this tiny opening, pitch black. He's got a light. He's looking for a crack, and just what could have been in there. So, wow, education today in all of this. What are some of the other things, Jim, that you come across when inspecting these tanks?
If we lean to the chemical side quickly, if you're a chemical shipper, you will, for instance, pick up chemical A. You'll have a full 7,000 gallon load, and you'll take it to your customer and you'll completely empty it. And then another customer calls and they say, we need you to pick up chemical B and take it over here. So you go to a cleaning facility, you clean the tank out, then you go pick up chemical B and you go deliver it. Then another customer calls. Well, they need you to pick up chemical Y.
Wow.
And the whole process starts over. So it's a load, wash it out, keep going. A load, wash it out, keep going. if the washout practices aren't perfect, if something goes wrong there and two chemicals are allowed to react, that's what I was referencing earlier. Pits can form in the barrel where they're literal holes in the barrel,
Wow.
and the area at the bottom of that hole is too thin. And if it goes much further, it's going to eat right through the barrel and start dripping product on the ground. So when we get into gasoline tanks, we're looking for cracks because it's aluminum. They're in rough service on the highways and byways and public roads. And then on the chemical side, we're always looking for pits and distortions to the metal that have been caused by a chemical reaction. And that's, you know, as far as the exterior goes, it's the same no matter what the trailer. You're looking for a crack. You're in the framing. You're looking for a crack where the piping and outlets are, up on the top where the venting and the manways are. You're scouring that thing looking for cracks.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
all wear and tear.
Unbelievable. It's like tank on the run. You know, could it conceivably be a situation like this? Tank goes, with a driver, tank goes to a location, picks up that chemical A, drops it off at a destination. Isn't the tanker isn't even back to home base. The driver's still on the road and goes gets a clean out, goes and gets chemical B, goes to another destination, finds another clean out area, now onto chemical C, picks it up, then drops it off to another. Could it be, this driver's on the road for, a couple of weeks in this situation? Does that happen?
I believe it does. Matt may be more equipped to answer that. It's going to be depending on the transport company, and probably and where the load and who they're transporting to. So I mean, if they're contracted to make multiple stops, they could be in and out of that tank vehicle quite a bit.
How often do you have a tanker that can accommodate different chemicals? Because I got to believe, that there's certain pressure relief valves and things on the tank that might not support this chemical, chemical A, but it will do chemical B, right? Is there a wide latitude in terms of what it can carry typically?
There's what you call, just break down basic hazmat. They have what they call the hazmat 101 table, and that's got every hazmat chemical deemed by the Secretary of Transportation in it. Okay. With that said, is as you go to the regulations and see what chemical you're transporting, it will take you to what you can transport that chemical in. Okay. So a lot of these tanks are built to transport multiple types of chemicals, providing, all the components. What kind of steel is it? What type of tank do you need? Your typical everyday gas haulers and diesel haulers. You're going to be like a 406 cargo tank, multi-compartment tank. Okay. Your bulk transporters such as chemicals and single compartment tanks are going to be like a 407 cargo tank. And they're all going to be made of different types of steel. So some of those steels can handle multiple types, and some steels may not be able to handle certain. That's why you have tanks that can transport chemicals and tanks that can transport, gasoline, diesel, ethanol, your everyday products. So it really does depend on how that tank's built, and the regulations will tell you what can go in those tanks. So right off the bat, if you go look at a shipping paper, you can go into the regulations and look up and say, wait a minute, this chemical can't go in here. Okay, and there's a reason it can't go in that tank because of how it's built. So, and that happens. So to answer your question, yes, these tanks can haul multiple chemicals depending on the tank that's being transported and the chemical.
Wow.
Yeah, if you and I were to be driving around, Steve, it wouldn't take me long to point out what we call a 7,000 gallon general chemical trailer. There's oodles of it. It would not take long for me to point at one and say, there's a general chemical trailer. And the list of things that can go in that trailer is long.
What is the most shocking, surprising, thing that you have found, Jim, when doing an inspection on a tanker?
It's a story I retell frequently, and it alludes to something Matt said a minute ago. A customer brought a trailer to me that had a leak. And he said, I just leased this trailer from a company out of New Jersey. I've only had it for 2 months. It is a brand new trailer, fresh off the factory floor, and it's leaking. And I got in the trailer personally, and it looked like somebody had gone in there with a shotgun and just gone crazy. It was pitted ceiling to floor. And it turned out that they were hauling an additive that they put in pipelines to make the pipelines slick so that the oil flow is more consistent and faster. And it was built, the trailer was built with this special grade of stainless steel. But the customer failed to go through the entire hazardous materials table, the 101 table that Matt referenced earlier, to find out that that special stainless steel doesn't work with his chemical. He has to use the more basic 316L, and he destroyed this trailer. It was completely ruined.
Just one filling of this.
Yeah, well, it was about 6 loads that they
Okay.
ran before it started to leak. And we're talking about a 6-figure trailer. This is $110,000 trailer, and it was ruined after a very, they're expected to have a 20+ year lifespan, and this trailer was ruined that quick, and it was shocking. I've never seen that much internal destruction inside a barrel, new, old, middle aged. I've never seen it that bad before.
What prompted the inspection?
A leak. It was those trailers, they kind of slope to the rear because they unload out of the rear, and the driver noticed that there was a drip coming. It's an insulated, there's a jacketing around it, and he noticed a drip coming from where there wasn't supposed to be a drip, and raised a flag, and they brought it to us and said, hey, get in this thing and find out what's going on.
Wow.
Brand new trailer, don't know why it's leaking. So it took a lot of steps to do that. We had to cut a coupon out of the barrel, and it had to go to a metallurgical investigation lab, and they had to do their thing. It took a couple of months, and they figured out, well, they hauled this product on this metal and it didn't work together. They should have used this other thing.
You say coupon. Is it now we're getting into terminology? Is that basically cutting a piece of it? Never heard that before.
Yeah,
Coupon
it's
go ahead.
well, I that would be a coupon.
It's a piece of metal.
It looks like the size of a conventional coupon you bring to the store. And is this it?
Yeah.
No, this is an aluminum shell, but this is a show and tell piece I've been carrying around for 28 years.
But what's going on that piece? It looks like it's not smooth. Something was eating away at it.
Yeah. In this case, it was crude oil, but the chemical pit looks the same. So, that's a typical coupon, and you would send it to a metallurgy lab, and they slice it, dice it. It goes under microscopes and goes through other chemical analysis that they know how to do.
Wow.
As I like to say, people smarter than me go figure that stuff out.
Unbelievable. Like that. That's show and tell. That would super cool to look at that. And I would assume once it comes back from the lab, and what do you do with that? I mean, is that trailer trash at this point?
That trailer in that case was scrapped. The guy hauling it had to buy it from the lease company, which I don't know how he did that, either with insurance or out of pocket, but he purchased it and then sold it for scrap.
Wow. Well, we're learning a lot here. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's one of the things, because of these examples right here, true stories. When we're doing our teaching, when we're working with retrospectors, doing the training, that's why it's so important that we make sure this isn't their daily is going through the hazmat table, right? Their daily is to do inspections. We train them to always know what's going on in these tanks. So what I mean by that is, I always say it's okay. It's only a recommendation that you can ask these customers, what was the last load in the tank? because when they do find out issues like this, they know they can go back to the regulations and say, hey, wait a minute, this can or cannot go in this tank. And that's something they can let their customer know going, hey, why did you put this in here? Because this is destroying your tank. Just the great example that Jim just gave. So we talked, and a lot of folks that we work with, inspectors and technicians, well, no one's ever shown me this before. Well, this is why we show you. One, it's part of the regulations that you learn it, but this is why the importance is you start seeing issues. It's good information for that tech to have, and it's good information to provide as a safety factor as well to the customer, and what they're doing.
And this is why your company, Matt, is so important and valuable, because of the education and everything involved. I mean, my gosh, whoops, we put the wrong chemical in and it's eaten away. What would have happened if that wasn't inspected? Let's say 6 months from now. I can't even imagine in that situation.
Yeah, who knows? Could have been anything.
And no one can tell. It could have been 2 more loads, 20 more loads, or 220 more loads, but there would have been a catastrophic failure, and it would have been ugly.
Gotta ask.
Kudos to the driver.
I don't think we've done this, Jim. How often are these trailers, these tanks inspected?
For the most part, every tanker on the road has a set of inspections that have to be done annually, and then there's a more intense version that occurs every 5 years. There are exceptions, as there are to everything, but for the most part, every year they're looked at externally, internally in some cases, and they're leak tested. And then every 5 years, there's a little bit more intense route of testing that we have to do.
Final question before we're out of time. When you say the routine once a year inspection, that's not the man jumping in the tank, right?
If it's a chemical trailer, yes.
Oh.
If it's a gasoline trailer, no. So if the trailer hauls what we call a corrosive, if whatever they're hauling stands a chance of eating away at the metal, then yes, they are internally inspected every year. Gasoline is not corrosive to aluminum, so we only have to get in them every 5 years.
Learned a lot today, gotta tell you. Wow.
I hope we didn't go too deep. Sorry.
No. It's not as deep as that corrosive material on that metal, that's for sure.
No.
Matt, how do we find you? Somebody has a transportation company. They're hearing all of this. They're seeing, the process and how serious you take it. And we didn't even get into violations. You never want to go down that road. That's why safety first. How do we find you, Matt?
Yeah, you can find me at my website's dottrainingsolutions.com. You can reach us at info@dottrainingsolutions.com, which is off of our website. You can reach me directly at 573-416-8203. That's my direct number. I always answer, so I always give that one out. We also have an 800 number on the website. All of our information, all of our classes and stuff are up to date on the website as well. So check us out and give us a call.
And Jim, somebody has a question specifically for you on tanks. How do they find you?
Sure. Anytime. My direct cell phone is 913-562-8670.
Thank you both for today. Again, learned a lot. That was definitely a interesting education. And weirdly, I'm watching these reels out of nowhere of people jumping in tanks, and I thought that was a one-off in some, other crazy country. Nope, that's how it's done. So appreciate it. Appreciate it today. Thanks for being here.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.